Hey guys, this is Tutorial Designs for Noble Desktop, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to make this paper rip transition in After Effects. First off, we're going to be dropping off in a paper texture layer and making it its own pre-comp. We're going to be using a mask to make it look like it's ripped in two, animate that, and then finally use that whole pre-comp as an alpha matte on our main footage. After that, it's some adjusting of layers so the jump looks smooth. Finally, we'll finish off with duplicating the paper rip layer and tweaking it with mesh warp so it adds a more realistic papery edge to the effect. And you can see, this is what the project looks like when it's done. So if you've been following our channel, then you'll already be familiar with the principles behind screen transitions, but if this is your first time, I'll explain a bit. So screen wipes are good for guiding the eye and covering up abrupt jump cuts. Any kind of movement that eases the leap from one scene to another can be considered a screen transition. This swipe is good for anything literary, like a book review, talking about a paper production, or even a kids show about books. Like really any project where you want to use something other than the built-in transitions. And so, as for external assets, we're going to be making everything in this file, so all you really need for this is any two pieces of footage and a paper texture. I can link a paper texture below in the description. So yeah, let's get started. So as you can see, scrubbing through right now, that jump is very abrupt. So let's get to making this thing. So the first thing that we're going to be doing is grab your paper texture and pull it down into your composition. And then we're going to be drawing a mask. So head over here to the pen tool. I'm actually going to shrink this paper a bit using scale. Hit S for scale, shrink it down. Okay, it's sized pretty well. And I'm going to be basically drawing one mask to start with. So you can make the corners go off, but basically what you want to be doing is drawing it kind of jagged and stuff so it looks like paper. So once you're done with that, we'll skip to the end of this mask making part. Okay, great. Now we have our mask. So with the paper selected, hit Command or Control D to duplicate it, and then hit M to open up the masks. Let's now hit inverted. So now you see it covers up the whole thing. We're probably gonna do a little, a couple of tweaks. You can see a bit of the, the empty space behind it. So if you want, you can either, just grab the, the edges and pull it down a bit, something like that. So let's skip after that tweaking part. Okay, great. Now I'm gonna click the bottom one, the bottom piece of paper. I'm gonna call it Paper Rip. Actually, I just call it Paper Bottom. And the top one, again, return or enter to rename it Paper Top. I'm going to select both these guys, right click, and I'm going to pre-compose. Let's call this Paper Rip Pre-Comp. Great. So let's head inside it, double click. So we got our two pieces of paper right here. Now we are going to animate this thing. So we're going to be basically using position and rotation. Hit P and Shift R to open up those two properties. I'm going to widen my timeline a little bit so I can see more of what I'm doing. Okay, so at the origin, just hit keyframe on both position and rotation. And about 10 frames in, I'm going to get my rotation to be 9 and positive 9, because if I did it negative, it would be sliding the other way. And that in 1 second in, I want my paper here. I'm going to get it pulled in all the way there. You can also just click and drag it. I just put it in 960 because I know the coordinates that I want, but it's more intuitive just to, click and drag it. And then I want paper top again, P, Shift R for position and rotation. And then we want the animation to be offset, so let's get the top half rotation starting at 3 frames in. So hit the stopwatch on both these guys to start animating them. And a little past 1 second in, let's put in new values. So here I want it at for the Y value, the Y position, negative 410. So it goes up. In fact, I want it to be even a little further. So I ended up putting it negative 470. The negative is important because it makes it go upward instead of down. Oh, and sorry about that, I missed rotation. Yeah, about 12-ish frames in, 13 frames in. I want the top half rotation to be negative 6. Play that. Okay. Great, that's good for our purposes. So I'm going to show you a couple of different ways to make the animation more organic. You can either select all of them, right click, go to Keyframe Assistant, Easy Ease. And that's a short way. I'll show you what that looks like. But what I think is the nicer looking but a little more tricky way is to use a speed graph. If you're not interested in that, you can skip ahead to the next chapter. But for those interested, I'm about to show you how to use the speed graph on this thing. So select all these keyframes, hit this little graph editor thing to go to the speed graph. And let's make it a little bigger, a little bigger. Ah, that's too big. So first I'm going to work with the position ones. I just selected both of them using Control or Command click. And let's see, for the top one over here, now by changing the curves of these, these little, I guess, these slopes over here, you can then change the movement of these things. A steeper curve means a faster moving, more a sharper, like more abrupt kind of transition. And a soft curve is what gives it like a nice, smooth slide into the next animation. So I'm going to try it here, like this, see what that looks like. Okay, perfect. So what you do, basically, you saw me do it, you grab and you drag these Bezier handles out. And so now you see how this one starts gradually, then speeds up? That's exactly what I want. So now to do the rotations, just like Control or Command click on the rotation ones. And I'm honestly just going to do one of them. You could do both if you like. And I'm going to grab the Bezier tool handle on one of them and just drag it inwards so it makes the shape, which means it starts out sharply and then kind of softens out. So great. So I am satisfied with that kind of animation. So let's head over to the main comp over there. Let's first trim this thing, so this transition, so it's just the paper rip itself happening. Great. So select your paper pre-comp, and you're going to Option or Alt right bracket to cut it just to that part. So as soon as the paper leaves the screen, it's done. So now let's position this paper rip right over where the jump cut happens. As you can see, it's like right here where it happens. So I just want it to kind of overlap just like that. I'm actually going to extend my timeline a little bit. Now, click Screen A. If you don't see these options, hit toggle switches and modes. But in track matte, I want to set this to alpha matte. Now let's play it. Now that looks strange, right? The reason being is because right now, Screen A is only activated during that overlap between the two. Screen A is basically asking this comp, like, hey, when should I appear and what should I look like? And this, dissolve transition we just made only starts over here. So it can't start following the pre-comp. Like, the Screen A can't follow the pre-comp if it's not even existing on the timeline yet. It's waiting for its instructions to appear. So we're going to remedy that. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to split Screen A into two separate layers to give an illusion. And you'll see what I mean as we go along. We're going to give it an illusion that it's one whole layer, but it's not. And so put your playhead right where the paper rip starts. And I want you to hit Shift, Control, or Command D to cut Screen A in half. Now you've got Screen A 2. Perfect. This is so we have enough playable footage going on until the paper rip starts. So now grab the paper rip pre-comp, lift it up here. We're going to set the original Screen A to no track matte. Grab our new Screen A, extend it out. And that's because this bit is going to be playing, just as it always does, until the paper rip starts. Then we're going to be relying on Screen A 2. We're going to be switching them out. It's a bit of like a magician's sleight of hand. There we go. And now for final details, we're going to be adding a bit of a realistic paper edge to this. So Command or Control D on your paper rip. And let's name this to Paper Rip Edge. And we're going to turn on visibility. So we're going to be working with the paper itself. And let's head over to Effects and Presets over there and type in Mesh Warp. Reason being is because we want this to have a bit of a paper edge, but we don't want it to be exactly the same. So click and drag that Mesh Warp onto here, and honestly, all you gotta do is grab like these little intersections on the mesh, just kind of wiggle them around, mush them around, just so we have another layer that's not exactly the same, but kind of resembles the other one. It's not like an exact replica. Okay, perfect. So once you're done, move your playhead over here, like one frame into where the paper rip transition starts, and hit the left bracket key, just so we are offsetting the edge just by a bit so it looks different. And then we're going to grab paper rip edge, and we're going to put it right underneath Screen A2. So it's a bit of a sandwich, kind of. So you've got paper rip edge, Screen A2, paper rip. Let's play it. And here's what it looks like. Alright, now you can save and reuse this transition in any project you want. Try it out in your book review videos, any arts and crafts video projects, or even just a family scrapbook animation. You can have the paper rip down lengthwise, use colored paper, or even layer it over and over so you can have a whole sheaf of papers ripping apart to show off your footage. So yeah, that's all for this tutorial. I hope you've enjoyed learning how to make your own paper rip transition in Adobe After Effects. And like always, if you have any suggestions or questions, let us know in the comments. We really love hearing about any projects that you're working on or any topics you'd like us to cover. This has been Sapar Designs for Noble Desktop.